All right. Welcome back to the Be a Man podcast. Welcome, Gabe. I appreciate you being on with me. Introduce yourself.
My name is Gabriel Alexander. First of all, Justin, thank you so much for having me here. It's a privilege and an honor to be invited. I know you work hard on this platform, and to be trusted to come on and share is an incredible privilege. So thank you for having me. And also, it was way cool getting to know you a little bit, even just before setting this up. But for everybody out there, my name is Gabriel Alexander. I'm a men's coach. I am an author. I'm a multi-business owner and entrepreneur, and I'm the founder of Freemen Forge Men's Events, among a great number of other things that I could list off right now. But the important part and the big thing we were going to talk about today, or I'm excited to share, is about our upcoming men's event, 15th of September in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, called Freemen Forge 2023. And you can find out everything you need to know that I don't tell you today at freemenforge.com. That's just freemenforge.com.
All right. So, freemanforge.com. Why should people go to this event?
The real question is, why shouldn't they go to this event?
Yeah.
In all honesty. But I mean, I think a lot of that came out of our conversation the other day and where our hearts really are. And it's why I reached out to you to begin with. It's that be a man concept. You know, I've been talking over the past couple of weeks in doing promotion and making sure that we're getting the word out about this event. Everybody's been asking me the why behind it all. And the reality is, I believe that the world is where it is because men have allowed it to become this way. At the very core, we have forgotten God, and then we've forgotten that it is our responsibility as the leaders of society, our homes, our families, that we are to reflect our Creator in every way possible. And so where I look at what the world is going through, when I look at what we're experiencing and seeing around the world, I genuinely believe it to be the fault of men. I know that a lot of guys in the red pill, community like to blame women and feminism, but the reality is, and the question that I am left with is, who tolerated it to begin with? Who allowed it? If we are the leaders of society and we're the heads of our homes and we're supposed to be leading our families and our communities, then it has to rest on us. We can't take the praise without also taking the criticism. And so the whole reason that we put together this event, and I could go way into background if you really want, all the way to I'm the first of 5 boys. I was raised in a sea of testosterone. I was very comfortable there. And my parents really helped us to live outside the box, think outside the box. Myself and my 4 brothers were all home educated. We were all taught the principles and values of entrepreneurship and making sure that we are free. And so that was always really a major theme in my heart was I never want to be controlled. I don't want to be put into a box. It's the way I see God. It's the way I see my faith. It's the way I see my life. And there's always been a really deep appreciation for and a yearning for strong male companionship in my life. And of course, I think it probably did start with having, a really strong masculine figure father leading the home and a mother who also understood her role in the situation and played it well. But that played into everything I did. And as I grew, I started businesses. Then I got old enough to where I started working with younger guys, whether it be coaching basketball. And that was kind of a big thing that I found when I was younger is I loved coaching younger men and helping their lives transform. It was way cool to see at the very beginning of working with someone at the beginning of like a sports season, at the end of that season, seeing this transformation take place in this individual who all of a sudden started to realize not only who he is, but what he is truly capable of. And long story short, man, I avoided doing what I knew I was supposed to do for 20 years. I think when I was, somewhere, I said 17 on an interview last week, but I think I was probably more like 20 years old at the time when my mom sent me an article that's, talking about up and coming careers in the future. And one of them was life coaching. That's the one she had clipped out in a magazine before we had photo texting. And she gave it to me in an envelope at church or something. And, the first thing that I felt was, doubt, disbelief. Who's going to pay me to tell them what to do with their life? And, I kind of ignored it, even though I kind of felt this tug on the inside, like, man, I could really help people's lives change. I could really pour into people's lives. And I sort of ignored it. I was in the church and ministry full time for a period of time, got to see some darker sides of what some churches can go through. The church splits, the fun political wars that take place at times. And I just said at one point, I'm just done with this. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm not playing this game. Religion is, I don't believe in religion. Religion to me means a set of rules. I believe in faith in Jesus Christ and a relationship that I have with him. And I just wasn't going to play the political game. I'm not going to toy around with this. So I'm just going to go do something that impassions me. And so I went for 10 years. I went into the music business as an artist manager and a touring agent, and had some success there. But then 2020 rolled around, and after I experienced some cancel culture living up in the Seattle area, basically a 10-year career went up in smoke overnight because they found out what my beliefs really were, that I'd kind of kept quiet for a period of time. But then 2020 rolled around, and I'm just sitting here looking around going, where are the men?
You're not alone.
Wait a second. You actually let them tell you to shut your doors to your business. Are you serious right now? That's the level of, I don't want to pass condemnation on anyone, but that's the level of cowardice that really pushed me to the limit that made me go, this is absolutely unacceptable. Not because other people made a decision for themselves. It was that those decisions were now paving the way for a future that I refuse to let my children live in. That will not be the future I allow my kids to live in. Not on my watch. I will do whatever I can, whatever I must, to make sure that my children have free lives, that I have the ability to worship God freely, that I have the ability to earn my income and lead my family in the way I see fit and the way God tells me. And so at that moment, really in 2020, I'm sitting here between two careers and one that just went up in smoke going, what do I do with my life? And then the riots started, and I'm standing in a building south of Seattle with a gun going, this is crazy. I'm not going to live here anymore. I'm not raising my daughters here. They're going to have to marry men one day. Why would I do that? And so within 5 weeks, we sold everything we owned out of our driveway, bought a truck and trailer, handed my companies over to people to run them, and then we hit the road looking for home for a year and a half. And it was really in that moment in 2020 when I was actually working with a man in my life who I had hired to coach me and coach my businesses, my relationships, and just help me elevate. And he helped me really see what my calling and purpose was, and that deep desire to help men find freedom and independence and sovereignty. He said, Gabe, you already know what you're supposed to do. You just need to go do it. And man, that's when it snapped for me. 2020, I just decided to completely go all in, working only with men. I'd been coaching companies and artists on brand and business building and scaling for a long period of time. But it was at that moment I knew all of this stops. I'm no longer working with companies. I'm no longer working with individual brands or women of any type. I am called to help men, and I'm called to help them get set free. And what I mean by that is I want to help them take back the throne in their lives. It starts with their spiritual walk and hearing from God. It starts with knowing who they are. It starts on the inside and it works its way out. So not only do I love helping men get in tune with listening to the voice of God instead of outside voices, but then allowing that to help drive them to change the world through their finance, their businesses, through their money, through their marriage and relationships, and through home educating their children amongst a host of other things. And I know I got to take a breath at some point and let you jump in, so I'll stop. But man, that's why I'm here. And that's why I created this event to begin with. It's because I was lonely. I couldn't find strong men to build with. I knew what I was called to. And every man I talked to across the country for a year and a half said the same thing. Where are the men like me? I want to fight the good fight. But one, I don't even know how half the time. And two, who do I fight alongside? And so I took it upon myself to go, if I can't find it, I'm going to go create it. So I created this event. We're going to be doing them all over the country. This is our inaugural one. We put together an incredible team of coaches and trainers to teach the men that show up strong masculine leadership in every area that we can potentially touch, or at least every area that we can conceive to touch and touch in a weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, man, you hit on so much there. That was awesome. That's, exactly what I talk about and preach, teach, you name it. That's what I do. But I think I want to hit on a few things you said there first. But first thing is, historically, when do you think this started taking place? Like, I've had some people say the 20s, like into the 30s. I've had others say after World War II. Others say after Vietnam. I mean, where do you think all this started?
If I'm blaming men, I have to go back to men's biggest weakness in general, which is sex, right? So I think when we really, I mean, it's happened since the beginning of time, right? It goes back to the Garden
That's
of Eden.
true.
It's the separation from God. It's, and you can see it throughout the scripture. It's amazing to read through the scripture and then also read into what we're experiencing in society right now and go, holy smokes, the parallels here. They abandoned God. God turned his back. Bad stuff happened. They repent because they're miserable. God rescues them. They abandon God again. And so I think it's the human condition that we are always trying to exalt ourselves above the Creator. We're always trying to make ourselves God, whether it be my wants and needs in this moment, the way I feel, what I want for myself, my own selfishness. And so I think it's built into the flesh of who we are, where I believe, and some people would argue with me, but I believe that the flesh is sinful innately. I believe that we're born in sin and that we desperately need a savior. And that's really where we've lost everything. But as far as this nation goes, I think when it comes to men, it comes down to convenience, cheap dopamine, and easy sex. And because I know what my weaknesses as a man are. What are the easy things? Well, it's easy to look at things you shouldn't look at. It's easy to, to want things you shouldn't have. It's also very easy to give into convenience. And we've got so many things at our fingertips that give us a sense of completion. And, even for a small period of time, just that dopamine hit, whether it's scrolling Instagram or watching TV. And you go look at how even movies have changed over time, how long they used to sit on a scene. All the way till now, it's just cut, because we've lost our attention span. But I really can't blame the things. I have to blame men. I also can't leave blame, honestly, out of the church in some way.
Yeah.
In all reality, we're not standing out like we're supposed to. It's, we'll just make peace with everybody. There's no conflict anymore. We can't hold a line of truth anymore. And we're just going to capitulate and look like the world. And I understand that it's not fun to go through conflict. It's not fun to be, have your face put on the internet and a whole bunch of nasty things said about you because of what you believe. I've been there, and more than once. And those things can cause us to really shut our mouths in a big way. And so I think, fear, but in large part, I honestly think much of it, if not the majority of it, sadly, is in institutionalized religion. Men have abdicated the throne of their life. And I keep talking about this on every interview I have. I love the word abdication, because abdication means a stepping away from your responsibility and just dropping it. It's not delegation. Good. Delegation is where I'm still ruling something. I'm still in control. I'm still in charge. I'm still paying attention. But I delegate responsibility according to a framework of authority where I still know what's going on. But it's very easy to drop responsibility because responsibility is a hassle. And so we get to this point where it's just like, man, I'll just let the TV watch my kids tonight. I'll just let the iPad teach them what to believe about the world. Oh, it's expensive to homeschool my kids. I don't really want a 4 or 5-year-old talking at me all day long and ignoring or interrupting me and me having to feel like I ignore them. So I'll just hand them to the public school system, to some weird blue-haired teacher that's going to impose their values upon them. And it's like, but it all starts at the core of, what have we abdicated most? It's hearing from God and obeying for ourselves. Like, no knock to your pastor, but your pastor is not there to hear from God for you. Not to say he can't speak the word of truth. It's not that he can't speak into your life and God can't be using him. But the second that we give away our opportunity and our responsibility to hear from God, have him tell us something, and follow it, regardless of what anybody has to say about it, that's where I think we've ultimately lost. You can get your money, you can get your, think you've got your marriage, you can think you've got your kids, you can have all this stuff and a seemingly peaceable life, but if you're not hearing from God and obeying, you've lost from the very beginning. And, I think that a lot of weakness has been bred specifically into men of faith, because as society as a whole and where we live plays into the way the church looks, whether it be a lot of female leadership, a lot of out of order relationships. Oh, don't say that. You'll rock the boat. Don't say that. Jesus is love. Now, I don't disagree that Jesus is love, but I happen to really appreciate the story where Jesus made a whip in the parking lot of the synagogue and went inside. God is a warrior. God is a warrior. He is a creator. He doesn't take no garbage off of nobody. And Jesus was not some mealy-mouthed coward. Yeah. And we've almost accepted this thing like God has asked us to be nice. And that's not the case. No. And what I mean by that is, to me, nice guys take what they're given. I'm not interested in being a nice guy. I want to claim what I am meant to have. That includes my freedom. It includes my finance. It includes my marriage. It includes great sex in my marriage. It includes relationship with my children and the ability to shape their minds and hearts in any way that God tells me to. And man, I think if we can get back to, I have one voice to listen to. I have one man to please, or person, or spirit. It's God and God alone. You know, Eli couldn't hear for Samuel. You know, I'm assuming that a lot of the guys on your podcast are Bible readers.
Yeah.
This was one of the greatest prophets and priests of all time. And a little kid's coming up to him saying, I hear God. And Eli's going, no, you didn't. Well, it was just whatever. And then all of a sudden he realizes God's speaking to him, not me. And so I just know that what has set me free most has been going back to, God, what are you speaking to me? What am I hearing? What are you putting deep inside me that I need to go and be obedient in? And if it can set me free from what I was enslaved to and what I still have to wrestle with from time to time, it can set any man free.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, you definitely hit on that spiritual aspect that I think is missing very much so in our society now. And it's becoming more and more that, and I'm not sure it's all necessarily a bad thing, because we've had this American cultural Christianity there for a while that wasn't real, that wasn't genuine. And I do think if there's a good side of 2020, it was that it exposed some of that. And some of the phonies, if you will, are out now. And we're seeing more people getting more devoted, or really they see the need for the real gospel, not the pray a prayer and be okay type thing. They're seeing a genuine repentance that's needed in their lives. And those who have genuinely done it, they're starting to say, man, there has to be a different way. There has to be something different. And I think that's what you're hitting on. I think what are some of the other main topics that you guys are going to hit at this conference? And what are some of the speakers? Some of the speakers too. I'll post them. But
yeah, I mean, you going back to that thing of where were you? I had something really good that I was going to latch on to that you just said there. I'll come back to it if I need to. But going back to what has been exposed. Okay, so what you said, 2020. I'll tell you right now. I mean, I have always been a little more outspoken for most people, I guess I would say. But for those 10 years in the music business, I was just like, do the business, just have the shows, make the money, do your thing, be at peace. But all the people that I had in my home for Christmas and Thanksgiving and I had loved, all of a sudden they found out what I believed, and all of a sudden I was the enemy. And I think, we've got to recognize that what's been exposed more than anything is the battle that we're in. People now see it's not just about the churches. We are in a war of good and evil, and we think that, evil's ramping up. No, it's always been there. It's just been hiding under the surface long enough to get you to fall asleep so you don't fight it. You tolerate it, you allow it to grow, you allow it to metastasize, and now it's beginning to own your life. And so I think people are recognizing it's not just about having Jesus as a part of my life. Jesus is life. God is life. And if I do not build my house on the rock, everything will crumble. And so that's where we'll start. So at this event, we're going to we start at the beginning, like I said, at the core of man. We're talking about spiritual warfare. We're not just singing songs and holding hands. We are going to be teaching principles of waging spiritual warfare and uniting with other men to move the flag forward in that regard. Outside of that, I'm flying in business coaches from even out of the country to come and teach us. We got one of my mentors, Sean Shuchuk, coming in. The guy has run, I want to say 43 different companies. His most recent company he built up to $133 million a year. Men have to understand that in order to impose our will upon the world, they're going to need a war chest to do so. And I'm getting I think that's really the thing that made me snap most in 2020 and looking around was going, I kind of started in anger, like, what is wrong with you cowards? And then all of a sudden I was filled with this sense of compassion. And I think God really humbled me in going, it's not that these guys don't want to fight. They don't know how. And they don't have the resources or the knowledge to know how to fight to begin with. So we're going to be going at money hard. If you are an entrepreneur, this is the place to be. You're going to learn about your money. You're going to learn about investment. You're going to learn about acquiring businesses, starting businesses. You're going to learn about sales and increasing that bottom line. But I think that's a huge thing, honestly, that a lot of believers overlook is the financial market. We are not called to be poor. It is not a virtue to be broke. You need to impact the world and change lives. And you can't do it while you're broke. That's the bottom line. You're not going to be able to give to someone if you have nothing. So we're going to be tackling money and business hard, opening relationships, intentional networking. So one of the things that I am really big on, and is one of the biggest priorities of this, is to connect relationships. Men are lonely. They're isolated. And every relationship is a new door to a new world. But I specifically think men are not meeting other men with intention. What are we going to build together? What are we going to lock arms and lock shields on and push forward with? Who's going to be in the foxhole with me to fight? That was one of the hardest parts of 2020, 2021. It's not that I don't want to fight. It's I feel alone. I feel like, who's going to stand with me here? And you know it like I do. It's one thing to try to pull something up a hill by yourself, but you get help. And it lifts not only your spirits, but it helps your strength. And so men need other men. If you have been saying for the past 4 years, where are the men like me? I cannot find them anywhere. This is your chance. Yeah. I've even had a couple guys say to me, it's like, man, I can't find guys around me. I just can't make it work this time. I'm like, what happens if you don't? You better get hooked into some relationships. You'd better get investing in these things that can open massive doors for you, not just in relationship, but what about the opportunities for business and beyond that it can open for you? So if you're an entrepreneur, you need to get there, write it off. We're doing business training. That's a business expense. All these sort of business trainings that I go to, I write them off. That's why you have a business. So go do that. We've got a couple coming in to teach about hormone health. Guys in this nation specifically do not understand the war that is being waged on the core of who they are as a man from a physical standpoint. They don't know what they're putting in their body. They've abdicated understanding of their health to white lab coats and name tags. They have no concept of what health really is and the way God made them to heal. So we got a couple coming in on that. We're providing massive resources for homeschooling and pulling your kids out of the public school system. And this may be one of the biggest passions that I have in this life. The public school system will never touch my children. My children will never see the halls of a public school, ever. And so, my mom was actually a homeschool pioneer. She used to write for the old homeschool, or the, what was it called? The old Schoolhouse magazine. It's one of the biggest homeschool magazines in the world. She used to write for them. She wrote an incredible book, but my mom saw what was coming down the pike in homeschooling for a long time, or she saw what was kind of coming down the pipeline in public school and said, I see the writing on the wall. I'm not doing this. I'm raising my kids differently. And so she homeschooled myself and my 4 brothers. I cannot even begin to communicate the value and that I got out of that and how important it is. The enemy knows that if you get the kids, it's over. And it doesn't matter which enemy you talk about, by the way. You can talk about Satan all you want. You can talk about, whatever point in history you want. You get the kids, that's it. Because now you're breeding your ideas into them generationally. And when they grow up, they're going to believe what has been put in them. You cannot send your kids to Rome 40 hours a week and expect them not to come back behaving as Romans and believing as Romans. And 30 minutes of Sunday school, a Sunday, is nonsense. It's lazy. It's an abdication of responsibility. And in my estimation, it's abuse. And men need to man up. It is not too expensive. I'll tell you what's too expensive. What's too expensive is your children turning on you, on their faith, and on their own bodies. That's what's offensive. That's what's aggressive. That's the problem. And so, man, this is war for me, especially when it comes to kids. I'm a major homeschool advocate. I'm currently in the middle of opening an entire homeschool academy downtown in the city where I live in North Texas. Bought a big old building right next to downtown, in the downtown sector, right next to the town square, and we're going to be able to pull 200 kids a week out of public schools to be able to get them in a situation where they're, it's incredible to think about what we could do. The world is as it is because we allowed our children to be hijacked. And that's why you've got a bunch of insane adults, men who don't know how to be men. So we've got somebody coming in and teaching. My mom will be one of the people teaching there. She's coming out to teach. And we got tons of resources that we're giving on that. Not only that, but we've got physical training. We're going to be doing workouts, log carries, ice baths, hikes. Our location is directly adjacent to the Great Smoky National Forest. So we'll be able to walk up into the national park and take hikes.
Cool.
We've even built, or when it comes to diet as well, man, there's so many aspects. I'm trying to even keep them all straight. We hired an award-winning chef out of Knoxville to come and cook for us all weekend, and it's completely animal-based. You will not find a GMO on site. You will not find seed oils. You will find raw dairy.
Awesome.
Don't ask me
Awesome.
about legality. I don't care. But but additionally, we don't want to just teach men to provide. It's essential that they learn to protect. Now, while provision is a part of protection, we want to teach men how to embrace their warrior nature that God gave them.
Yeah.
So we're bringing out everybody from firearm trainers, tactical trainers. We've got a guy teaching CQB, so even home entry and clearing a home. We have built open top with drones flying over top so we can capture it. You'll be working your way through a home with sim weapons to be able to understand how to rescue your family if you need it. We got a dynamic rifle course. We got performance pistol course by one of the champions Tennessee speed shooters that's out there named Josh Gass. He's incredible. He's been medaling all over Tennessee all year and throughout the South. We've got a Navy SEAL coming out to work with us in our pistol. And we've also got an incredible trainer from North Carolina named John George, who is a 3rd degree black belt in jiu-jitsu. It's nearly unheard of. And he's coming out to teach us a course called Practical Violence, where he's teaching us how to fight with our hands. And guys will actually have an opportunity to sign up and fight one another, which will be a blast. We'll have a referee. Cool. Yeah, so we've got manly movies, everything you can possibly imagine. I know I'm going on and on and on about it. So get to freemanforge.com and check it out because it's all right there.
It sounds like a blast. I think guys are going to have a lot of fun. I mean, really.
Yeah.
And the topics alone, I think, are worth why someone should go. And because you're hitting on so many things. You had a little Bodie Bacham moment there with sending your kids to Rome. I don't know if you know who that is, but
I know who he is, but I don't listen a whole lot. I will admit.
I went and heard him for the first time in January, and this past January, and he sticks with you. We'll put it that way. And
I need to DM him.
He was talking about. Yes, you should. Yeah, although he's located in Africa. He actually has a pretty cool story. Like, he's not there as a missionary per se. He went back to Africa to start a university because there's so many Africans who don't have a very good work ethic in his mind. And he said that has to be taught. And why are so many people sending their family members and all these people to America to get all this care when why aren't we just building it up here and training leaders? And he pastors a church there too, but it's still, a pretty cool goal. But he says the same thing. Like, he grew up in the projects in LA. He's like, he took his kids down the street and they're all like scared to death, locking the doors. And he's like, this is where I grew up. And the story that stuck out to me the most was, and it's part of what you're talking about here, is there was a family who moved in when he was a kid, and they were all fascinated. All the neighborhood kids were fascinated for one reason, and that was because there were two parents in the home. And there was a father and a mother. And none of the kids, local kids, knew what having a father in the home was like. Yeah. And he said that, and it really hit home. And that's part of what I think you guys are trying to do here is raise up not just good men, but good fathers who can protect and care for and provide and all those essential elements to what being a good man is all about.
I'm so glad you said that word, because it's another huge part of why I do what I do is the concept of fathering. If you really think about it, what we call leadership today used to be called fathering. You would have learned your trade, your skills, your knowledge of the world, money, everything else you would have learned from your father in the past before your father had the NFL to keep him busy, the NBA, the MLB, whatever, Netflix, a cell phone, etc., to keep him busy. They didn't have anything to do but spend time with you. By the way, they worked their own food on their own land, so you had no choice. You were going to be trained come hell or high water, right? But, yes. But and I think that's the important thing to recognize here is your father, and your natural father is one thing, but you do not have to be biologically related to someone to be fathered by them or to father them. I'll tell you right now, there are guys on my team. If you go look at the website, go look up Men in the Fray. Men in the Fray. John Martin has become one of my closest friends over the past couple of years. The guy is 25 years old. He's almost 15 years younger than I am. He has taken moments to speak into my life and help father me, especially from a tactical standpoint. You should see the guy work with a firearm. It's incredible. I couldn't even dream of touching that right now with that a whole lot of work. But the point is, when you find men with a father's heart, they're there to help lead you forward. And I knew when I was young, I'm sitting here going, I have a good father. I have a father in my life. My dad didn't have a dad. He did the best he knew how to do with me, but I still reached a ceiling of going, my dad can only teach me so much. And sooner or later, I keep using this analogy, but you got a dad who's a plumber. He's not going to be able to teach you electrician work too well. There are times in life where your natural father is simply not going to be enough, and you're going to have to be fathered in other disciplines in order to grow. That's why guys come to me to work. That's why entrepreneurs come to me to help them break through the financial barrier that they don't understand themselves because they've never been taught. And so it's important to recognize that no matter what state of life you're in, no matter what chapter of life you are in, there's another level to go to. There's another thing to learn, and relationships are going to cause you to learn. And most often it's going to take committing yourself to someone who can actually show you what to do next. And so I think one of the coolest things that we're trying to really implement with this is not just an event. This is a community of people. Every single person that registers will get included in our online community. The basic registration will get you a month for free. You get to check it out. VIP registration will get you 3 months. Oh, and by the way, I didn't mention VIP members get the VIP dinner with our speakers, and they get access to flamethrowers and machine guns at the firing range.
Awesome.
But we want men to. You can't just walk away. That's been the problem with church events or retreats in the past for me. Is one, it feels like a 3-day-long church service, and I'm like, why didn't we just stay home? I want to get out in the woods and have fun with other guys. Doesn't mean we can't talk about spiritual things, but I want to do more. But then, secondly, we get high at these things. You get this emotional high. We're all pumped. Then we go home, and then what? 6 weeks later, you're still just as fat, just as lazy, just as visionless, just as purposeless, just as aimless. What is going to actually cause you to grow? It's environment. You know it, and I know it. We talk about athletes or anybody else. You play with the small team, you play down to the small team. But then all of a sudden, you'll see these Cinderella stories in the Sweet 16 where it's like, they're playing at an incredible level. They're playing up to the level of their competition. And anybody who's ever been an athlete knows it. You go play with the big kids, you get stronger, faster, and you get able to compete with the big kids. Your life, the majority of the life that you have is the crowd you surround yourself with. And there is not a single book on my bookshelf about personal development that will not tell you you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around. So you want to elevate you want to elevate your behavior, you want to elevate your leadership, you must put yourself in a circle of people that will refuse to let you live at the standard that you've been comfortable in for a long time. Because comfort is where dreams and purpose go to die. You've got to get in a community. So we want to build a community where men are holding each other to a high standard, but that they are also able to build into one another's lives. I can't even begin to communicate to you the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars that have been exchanged within my private men's group online in the past 6 months because of men going, I have this issue, and someone coming with a solution and then collaborating going, oh my goodness, what just happened? You've got to get around people who value what you value. You got to be in relationship with them. But then when you leave this thing, you have access to the coaches and speakers that are there teaching you and training you. Men who have walked the path, proven themselves, and can help father you through the process. So we got Ian Smith speaking. He's obviously, if you don't know who he is, you haven't watched the news much in the last few years, he's the crazy gym owner in Jersey who wouldn't shut his doors for anybody. We've got Shannon Rush coming out and speaking. We haven't even announced him. You're the first to know it. Shannon Rush is a former Navy SEAL. He's done all sorts of keynote speeches all over the country. He's going to be speaking and training. You'll also have Greg and Denise Mira coming out speaking on spiritual warfare. There's a couple people we haven't announced yet, but the speakers, the trainers, these are all men who are not only very good at what they do, but they're God-fearing men who refuse to capitulate. And that's who I want to be with. I can love you, I can get along with you, but I have made a very strong decision and drawn a line in the sand about who I will do life with and the kind of level I want to be on. I want those men that get tearful when they watch The Patriot, Braveheart, and 300 because it's men standing there going, it's all or nothing, death first. That's my heart, man. And that's the way I'm built. I can't help it. I'm a warrior at heart. I'm loving. I care about people, but I have a line and a standard, and I will not compromise on it. period. And that's who I want to build with.
It's awesome. I think you are amongst many who are looking for the same thing, who are thinking the same thing, who want the same thing. And I hope that I know as we kind of wrap up here, I know that I mean, it's a cost, it's an investment. I think it's not just an expense, but it is for some guys. But you've been generous to offer, if guys sign up today when this is released, there's a code man 500 to get a code there to get $500 off. Yep. If you sign up by the deadline, it's man 250 to get $250 off. So you've been super generous there with the guys who are listening. I think it will be an investment, and I hope guys really take it and run with it. And I mean, it just sounds like a huge opportunity to grow as a leader, as a man, as a father, as someone who desires to see things not just keep going the way they have been. It's time to stick our foot in the sand. I always think of that scene in, what is it, Davy Crockett, the Alamo, where the line's drawn and you got to decide, man, am I going to be in this or not? And I think we've hit that point where guys are going to have to say, I'm done with the status quo. Yeah. I have to push beyond the bounds. I have to go beyond and be the leader that God ultimately has called me to be.
Yeah. And so much of that comes down to faith. That's one of the biggest things that I've been trying to communicate to people is the farmer plants the seed. He has no guarantee of that plant coming up. As he plants the seed, he does the work, and with God's grace and faithful consistency, that plant will come up. All right, you gotta expect the same with your finances and what you're doing to grow your life. You're not going to be able to grow unless you lean in and invest and force yourself to get a return. And so we want to make it possible for guys to get there. But if you're looking at it in terms of, well, I can't afford a retreat right now, let me fix that for you. One, this is not a retreat. You will not come home rested. You will experience a very intense time of brotherhood. But I think guys need to get that idea in their head of, you've got to put something in to get something out. And, I had somebody the other day, man, I don't know if I could do that. I'm like, okay, man, look, put it on a credit card. If you cannot come up with an extra $1,500 to $2,000 in the next 4 months, there's a problem. And the problem is the fact that you don't know what you're missing. You're the person who needs to be there most. And I'm not encouraging anybody to do something stupid or foolish. I'm saying invest in something that will give you the knowledge, the tools, and the relationships to completely shape the trajectory of your life and change it like that. Your results won't necessarily change like that. It takes time. But your trajectory can, and your relationships can, and you would be shocked by the doors that open because of it. So like you said, you guys have that, the $250 off until we're sold out. We're going to sell out. And you've got $500 off if you buy the day of this podcast, the day it's released. It'll be $500 off of a single ticket. Now, what makes that cool is the biggest discount that we have available at this time to anyone is only $250 for a single ticket. If people bring a friend and there's 2 tickets or more purchased at one time, $500 is taken off of each of the tickets in that purchase. So you go and buy 10 tickets with you and your buddies, you just all save $5,000 collectively. Yeah. And so this is the only way for someone to get that price on a single member ticket. And so I would really encourage people, go to the Be a Man podcast link, click on that thing, come through to our site, check it out. And of course, if there's anything I can do, let me know. You can find me on Instagram at Forger of Men, and that's just FORGEROFMEN, Forger of Men. And I'm more than happy to converse with you, help you if I can. You can also find Freemen Forge on Instagram, just at Freemen Forge. And if there's anything we can do to help you grow, answer questions, we want to help. We want to help men grow. This is how we win the war. That's it.
Yeah, man, I've really appreciated this. I've enjoyed this conversation, and it shows me with all the discount codes and all that stuff, I'm not half full. I'm not half empty. it is what it is. Right. Yeah. And so many times I look at these things and I'm like, what's the catch, And when you do things like this and you give out these codes and these discounts and all that stuff, it shows me that you're not in it just for making money or something like that. You're in it because you want to see guys grow and reach their potential. And that's really encouraging to me as I'm trying to press that on to other guys as well. and it shows me that this is going to be a really cool event, and I think guys would really get a lot out of it. So I hope
I
it goes
agree.
well. I know it's in Gatlinburg, that time of year it's going to be really nice. It
Oh
should be
yeah.
at least. So uh, one thing I do as we close is I like to ask everyone to give the men listening a challenge for the week. It could be, per day or something just to do this week or this month. Just give the guys something focal to focus on.
All right. I think if anybody wants to change their life, and let's go. The biggest important thing to me is find God. But in order for your life to change, one, you've got to have vision. The scripture talks about where there is no vision, people perish. If you don't have a vision for a brighter, bigger, more prosperous future, and a future that you want to build, then you'll stay content right where you're at. And where you're at is miserable. No one wants to stay where they're at, no matter how good they've got it. They always want more. That means you have to have vision for something bigger. If you don't know what it is, ask God for it and begin to listen for yourself. God gave me this. That's it. God put this desire deep in my heart, and it's caused me to go do something massive. But one, get a vision. I'll give you 3 more if that's okay. 2, get a father. We all need someone to help walk us forward so we're not alone. No one likes, as a kid, to walk the garbage can to the street at night alone. You need a father, right? Someone wants to feel protected and safe. Get someone to help you walk where you want to walk. 3rd, get a brotherhood. You need people around you that are going to force you to grow, and that's going to mean discomfort. Sometimes it's going to be the knocking of heads. There are guys in my group, and we knock heads sometimes, but that's what forces us to grow, and that's what you should be experiencing. But then more than anything, you've got to make an irrevocable commitment. Had I not put this event on the internet, had I not committed to contracts and venues and signed things with money I didn't have yet, right? It would not exist. An irrevocable commitment is what causes you to actually find a way to get something done. It's hearing the vision. It's finding someone to help you walk it out, a community that will make your new normal more intense, and an irrevocable commitment that you cannot get out of that will force you to elevate in ways you never thought possible.
That's awesome. That's good. I like it, man. I really hope this goes well. I hope, guys, as you're listening, will go sign up today and get that discount, and we'll enjoy an awesome couple of days with some guys. And again, not a retreat, but a very intensive growing session. Let's put it like that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's
now let me put my sales hat on. Justin, you ready to make an investment here, man?
There you go.
No, in all seriousness, I can't wait. I'm more excited to see men set free than anything else. It's time to rally the troops, guys. It really is. There is no time left for playing right now. If you are still watching what's going on in the world and going, I have time, you got your head in the wrong place. There is no time. Now is the time. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. I like that. That's a good way to end. Let's do it. Guys, go sign up today. I hope you have a great week. Thank you for tuning in. Gabriel, thank you for coming on. I've enjoyed this very much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the hospitality, and anytime. Favor goes both ways. And, if I can ever come back and deliver value, I'm happy to do it. It's been a pleasure.
Definitely. All right, guys, go have a great week.